What's up, guys? It's your girl Faith, and I am back with another video. Welcome back to Becoming Dr. Kaluba. For those of you who are tuning into my channel for the very first time, welcome to my channel. I hope you find my content helpful to your career journey. And for those of you who are returning subscribers and viewers, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys for supporting this channel as well as for tuning in again. Thank you. I hope that you guys also find this video and the rest of my content to be beneficial to your careers. Now, today I will be talking about my experience applying to graduate schools. On the 3rd of December 2024, I submitted my last application for graduate school. And so I thought it would be great for me to share my experience with applying to graduate schools, the thought process that went into the schools and the programs that I applied to, where I applied to, um, as well as just like how I organized and submitted the things that were required of me to submit. So this video is specifically for those of you who are maybe thinking about applying to graduate school or are currently in the process of applying to graduate school. So yeah, I'm creating this video for what I hope will be your benefit at the end of the day. And for those of you who are just watching out of sheer interest in what's going on my end, I appreciate you guys as well. So if you know somebody who may be thinking about applying to graduate school or is currently doing that, or rather, by the time I'm posting this, actually, deadlines would have passed. But if you're currently watching this, say next year, 2025, um, and you may know somebody who is applying, or maybe they'll be thinking about applying next year, definitely share the video with them. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into this video. So the last video that I shared with you guys was when I was in Berrien Springs at Andrews University. I was giving a research talk for their seminar series, and it was so nice to be able to go back to my alma mater and share my research and as many resources as I could with students, both undergraduates and master's students, and just to be able to interact with them, interact with my professors. It was such an enjoyable experience, very, very humbling experience. It's like, oh, you realize in those moments just how much you've grown, you know? So I was very thankful for that opportunity. So if that's something that you're interested in, especially regarding research opportunities at Van Andel Institute, strongly encourage you to check out the video. And if you're just genuinely curious about my research and the work I've been doing, check it out. I will put the link up somewhere on the screen. I always forget which side, but yeah, I'll have the link up for you guys to check it out. But yeah, so that was October 22nd when I did that and posted the video, and I haven't posted a video since. That was not planned. I have just been so busy between working a full-time job as well as doing grad school applications. This past period has been so hectic. I thank God that we are now past that. It is in the past. I don't have to think about it too much. All to say, working full time and doing grad school applications is not an easy challenge. For sure, I will definitely emphasize giving yourself ample time to work on your grad school applications. Give yourself ample time. If you're in a position where you're not working full time or you're not in school, please do not procrastinate. In both cases, rather, do not procrastinate. Give yourself good time to get your work done, quality work. Because the truth of the matter is, I think what makes it even more hectic, well, there are a number of factors that make it more hectic. The number of schools that you're applying to, as well as just like how much effort you're putting into the essays that you're submitting. So yeah, you know, you want to make sure it's graduate school. You want to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, and you're not submitting subpar work. I feel like that's what makes it more involving. Each school has somewhat different requirements for things, so you have to tailor whatever you write based off of what the school is asking for, what the documents, what type of documents they want to see, the things that they're asking for. First thing that I would say, first word of advice, give yourself ample time to actually work on your applications. The application windows for most schools, the earliest one that I saw opened in August, and they typically close in December. So that was for the programs that I applied to. But before I give too much detail too early, yeah, I want to go over essentially how exactly I thought about this and where this thought of me even applying to graduate school began. So yeah. So if you've been following my journey for quite some time, I'd say maybe for the past year and a half to 2 years, you know that I made the decision to not become a medical doctor. And I shared that, I believe, on New Year's Eve, actually, in 2023. After going through undergrad, after learning more about the career and what the career's requirements were, I realized that this was not the best fit for me. And during that process, I also immersed myself in doing research as an undergraduate student, and it just meshed so well with my personality, what my future aspirations are, both career wise as well as my personal life. I had certain goals of doing certain things in my home country, Zambia. Zambia, like many other developing countries, especially when it comes to research, which is the field that I currently work in, the field that I foresee myself working in the future, because I just really enjoy it. There's very little scientific and financial investment that I see, and I think there's more that can be done. So for a while, even before my decision to pivot from becoming a medical doctor, I really wanted to establish a healthcare institute or a healthcare center back home that provides healthcare of people from underprivileged backgrounds. That has been my goal, my vision for quite a long time, in addition to other things that I would want to establish. Um, but yeah, I would really like to make a difference in that. But now, thinking more so from a researcher's perspective, I still would want to have like a hospital, if not a hospital chain back home. But from a research standpoint, and it being what is my specialty and will be my specialty, I also want to establish a research center. I currently work in the field of cancer research, and cancer is a problem. It is a worldwide problem. And currently in Zambia, for one, the cases of cervical cancer, the prevalence of fibroids, they're just increasing, over time. And there's not much information, that's out there regarding what even causes fibroids, much less how to treat them outside of doing things like hysterectomies. I'm thankful that there are so many therapies now. There are therapies that are available to help combat cancer, and a number of people who have gone through remission and all and are fine today. Thank God. I'm glad that there are treatments that are available, but I think there's even more that's left to understand about cancer. There's more that's left to explore about cancer, and maybe even more treatments or cures to develop. So I want to be a part of that change. I want to be a part of the solution. And Zambia, that's my home country. So I want to be able to not only contribute to the healthcare as it pertains to cancer and our understanding of cancer back home, but also I see the importance of providing um, opportunity opportunity for people who also enjoy science and can do really good science. So yeah, that is my long-term goal. It's also what really drives me to do what I am currently doing, as well as what I want to achieve in the future. And all these things that I've talked about, I share what my future aspirations are to give you insight as to why I'm even pursuing graduate school in the first place. While an undergraduate degree carries weight, I know that in order for me to establish those things, I need experience, I need deeper understanding of the science. And so to do that, I'd need to further my education. You need to know what program you're actually going to apply to. This is, I would say, the most important thing to just how you go about the rest of the process when it comes to applying to graduate schools, establishing what program you actually want to pursue or apply to. I knew that I wanted to do something related to cancer metabolism, signaling, or just cancer biology overall. I knew that I wanted to do something like that, but I was going back and forth with myself, like, oh, is this going to affect, whatever I do, like in the future, if I am interested in something else in addition to this, will I be able to explore that? I didn't quite know or understand how that would work. So what I did was talk to a few other people like in the field, like PIs, who've been working in the field, or like research scientists, one of the research scientists being in my current lab. He also has a PhD, did his postdoc and everything. So talking to people who've gone through the process definitely helped me like figure out, okay, so this is what this is about, and this is the kind of impact it would have on my future. So, okay, fine. So yeah, that was how I ended up, deciding to say like, yeah, I'm going to be all in for this. I'm going to pursue a PhD in cancer biology. I came to this decision to apply to graduate school this year at the beginning of the year, rather towards the end of last year, going into this year. One of the first things that I did was reach out to recommenders. So one of the things that you will be required to do for your grad school application is to have 3 people who are your recommenders who will submit letters of recommendation, at least 3 recommenders. So yeah, I had determined the 3 people that I wanted to be my recommenders to submit my letters of recommendation. Another reason why I said earlier on to give yourself ample time so that you establish who your recommenders will be. Sometimes you may have, say, a certain person in mind, and say they're not available to, or maybe they're not even willing to be a recommender for you. You want to make sure you've given yourself enough time that, say, if someone the person you have in mind doesn't want to do a recommendation for you, or they are unable to do a recommendation for you, you want to make sure that you give yourself enough time, that you have wiggle room, to ask someone else, as opposed to like waiting for the last minute. Would not advise that. So yeah, I made sure to let my recommenders know. And another thing, your recommenders are likely like busy people. My recommenders are PIs and professors. So you want to make sure that you give enough time so that they know. A lot of PIs and professors have busy schedules, and some of them like even plan out what their availability will be like for months. People go on vacation, so you want to make sure that you let them know well in advance so that they can plan accordingly. Once you establish the program that you want to pursue, I must tell you that narrows down your pool of things you're thinking about, because you can imagine there's so many graduate school programs you could think of. So once you establish to say, oh, this is what I really want to do, it definitely sieves out a lot. For me, with the cancer bio program, there are quite a number of schools still that offered the program, and I was thinking to myself, like, this is a big decision, and granted, just applying to a school doesn't necessarily guarantee you entry. But I was still thinking about it, like, there's so many schools here. I really want to make sure that I'm applying to schools such that, even if I'm to get into anyone, I would be very happy, you know. But also I want to make sure that I'm getting into the right school. Like, I want to make sure that I'm applying to the best schools for me, and what my vision is, and that will help me achieve my goals. So talk to the people that you reach out to as your recommenders, as well as like other people that you have around you. If you're working in a lab currently that has, like, say, a research scientist or a postdoc, or just like senior grad students, reach out to those people. you know if there are like specific schools, say for example, that you've already heard of that have like a good program, reach out to a student, use LinkedIn, email a student, reach out. I've done things like that before, and people are typically very welcoming, to being able to like just talk about themselves, their careers, like what kind of dynamic they have going for them at work. I've never personally encountered or even heard of a situation where someone has been treated poorly, when they're just asking about an experience in a certain lab or a certain school. So yeah, definitely take advantage of the opportunities that you have or the access that you have to certain people, and even if they're not in your direct contact, use platforms that you have, things like LinkedIn, use them to reach out to different people. At the end of the day, it was pretty much up to me to determine how many schools I was going to apply to and which schools I was going to apply to for additional reasons. So in addition to like just how good the program is and how well it would help me achieve my goals, there are also other factors that I took into consideration as I was thinking about the schools that I would be applying to. Now, before I even share that, I was reminded of a resource that I would strongly encourage or strongly recommend. This is not a paid partnership or sponsorship of any sort. This is just me genuinely sharing this with you because it helped me a lot. The site that helped me, they also have an app. It's called Trello. Trello really helped me organize all this. Like, I used the Kanban template. Essentially, what the Kanban template has is a setup such that you're able to list the things that you plan to do, the things that you are actively doing, and the things that are done. So you're able to move things around, and you're able to create different profiles for different things. So I set up a main file for my graduate school applications where I listed out the schools that I was looking at and the schools that I was interested in, and created profiles for those schools, writing down like different details that I was interested in, the program attributes, funding from those schools, the faculty that I was interested in, the research that was being done, whatever details, deadlines for things, documents that are required, whatever details that I thought to say this I could find useful without having to go to the website, go to specific things for each school. Yeah, it really helped me, and it is free, So yeah, that is a site that really has helped me throughout this whole process. So I would strongly recommend checking it out. Another one, that both of these sites actually were recommended to me by Lano. So babe, if you're watching this, thank you for recommending those sites to me. They really helped me. The other one is Notion. Notion is another app that you could use to better just organize things. You will need an organization system, especially if you're thinking of applying to more than one school. You need some sort of an organization system, as you are going through all this, to make your life easier. So yeah, Trello, Notion, I'd strongly encourage. I'm probably saying a lot of information right now, and maybe it's a little jumbled. I apologize if it is, but I hope you can still pick up 1 to 2 things, if not more, from everything that I'm saying. So going back to what I was talking about with how I was looking at schools and just my thought process behind that. So I was thinking about the academics, how good the school was for the program that they offered. So there are different factors about a program based off of what you want to do with your life. And if you haven't decided, like say for example, with a PhD program, especially for STEM PhDs, I'm not really well versed with things outside of STEM. Forgive me if that's what you're looking for. But yeah, especially for STEM PhDs, the battle when it comes to like what you do with your career after is usually between going into academia or going into industry. And so depending on what you want to do with your career, some schools I find have their programs more tailored to one or the other, or are good for both. And so I was thinking about things like that, like what kind of program the schools have, as well as factors outside of the STEM aspect. So I'm going to now start to break them down one by one. So, first things first that I looked into was the kind of research to help me sieve out which schools would not be on my final list. So, the first thing that I looked at was the faculty and the kind of research they'll be doing. So, once I knew to say, okay, they offer this program that I want, the cancer bio program, mind you, different schools may have like different names for this, or some schools offer umbrella programs that you start off in like in your first year or two, where you do like your coursework in before you branch out into like the different programs under the umbrella. So they may have different names, like some will have like a biological and biomedical sciences PhD program, but you're able to explore cancer bio there. Some will have like a completely different name for the program, but cancer bio falls under that program. So yeah, you find things like this. So it takes a little more like searching on the website. But yeah, the first thing that I looked into was, after establishing the program, was the faculty and the research that is currently being conducted at those specific institutes. Now, one thing I should mention, again, another reason why you need to give yourself ample time for this, looking through the faculty, like just being able to go through school by school, it's also a process. It is not something that you can do within one night, especially if you are working or in school full time. It's not possible. It's just not possible. If you're doing a thorough search, it is not possible. Why I say so is because user interface, the importance of that, like how, I'll give you an example. Some schools, one of the schools that whose website I appreciated during this process when it comes to like the faculty search, was University of Michigan. I will mention I did not apply to the University of Michigan. They have a very good cancer bio program, but unfortunately, they don't accept international students because of funding. They use, I believe, federal funding, and so for a PhD programs like a cancer bio PhD program, your tuition is covered. It is sponsored by the school for the first, I believe, 1 to 2 years, depending on the duration of the coursework for the program. And then for the rest of the program, so the remainder, your 3 to 4 years, um, is sponsored by the PI, or your grants or fellowships. With UMich, their grants, I believe, are federally funded. They apply to, I think, US citizens and permanent residents. So, yeah, as an international student, they wouldn't have accepted my application for the program. So, yeah, that's another thing to take note of. Another thing to point out, or even as you're looking, if you're an international student like me, it also helps narrow down your list of schools that you're thinking about. But yeah, I appreciate the University of Michigan's website For this reason, you have the different faculty listed, as well as they're like a summary, a short summary of the research that they're doing. And also, it lets you know which faculty were accepting students in their lab. I think that is so important because, or rather, I appreciated being able to see that because it gave me an idea of like, okay, if I'm applying to a certain school, I had put for myself the standard, if I could put it that way, to say I'm only going to apply to a school if, when it comes to at least the research aspect, I'm only going to apply to a school if there are at least 3 faculty or 3 types of research or 3 labs that I'm interested in, at least. So for those, there were schools like where I was only interested in one lab, the kind of research being done in one lab, and so I didn't apply. There were schools where it was only 2, I didn't apply. At least 3 labs. And so yeah, if say for example, it doesn't show, or you have no way of telling whether the labs are accepting students, it's difficult because you're like, say for example, I find 3 labs that I'm interested in, and then I get into the school, say the school overlooks that I mentioned, say in my essays, or I don't mention the specific faculty that I'm interested in, and say I get into a school, I wouldn't want to be in a predicament where I get in the school and say none of the people that I actually went to the school for, or the research, none of them are taking in students, or say for example, only one of the 3 are taking in students, and maybe I come to find out that actually the PI's mentorship style and my mentorship style are not complementary, or maybe I don't see myself meshing well with the lab. It would become a very disappointing experience because, then I'd almost feel stuck, you know. So I did not want that for myself, but I appreciated that UMish had that setting where you know to say like, oh, okay, so this PI, early on without having to dig too much, which PIs are accepting students or not. So yeah, I really appreciated that about UMish. Some other schools, they didn't even have, like, the other schools just had like, say, a picture of the faculty and a summary of what kind of research is being done, as well as a link to the lab's website, which that I also appreciated. But there are some schools that had like just a name, and like you could click on it, had a link to, like, what the PI, like a summary as well of what the PI is doing and whatnot. But like where you have over 30 faculty to sieve through, it's so exhausting. You go one by one, you open a link, it takes you to another tab, you go back, you close it, you go back, second one back. Yay! Give yourself ample time. Give yourself ample time. And again, it's also why it's important, again, to have some sort of organization system for this process, because then as you are going through the lists of PIs, because different schools are different, they have different websites, they have a different user interface altogether. So you want to make sure that, again, you have some sort of organization system where you don't have to go back to the school website from scratch, look for, oh, is this the PI that I was interested in? You want to make sure that you have all those things listed and you're tracking those things as you go through your application process. So having somewhat of like a minimum, standard to say like, I'm only considering schools that have this many labs that I'm interested in, is also another means by which you could filter how many schools you will actually apply to in the end. You want to make sure that at least, even if you're just getting into one school, you will be happy with that school because you did the work, to go through which schools actually offered what you wanted, and you made sure that you were at least interested in 3 labs at the school. because majority of your PhD you will spend in the lab. So you at least want to make sure you're in a lab where you're interested in what it is that you'll be doing. And thinking again about, the faculty and whatnot, definitely feel free and utilize the opportunity again, if you have that, to reach out to, again, the people that you have around you, be it like your research scientists, be it your PI, especially say if your PIs or the research scientists that you know or postdocs attended those schools. Some of these people may actually know the people that you're interested in working with, or that you're whose research you're curious about. Some of them maybe even schooled with those people or have worked with them, or they have a deeper um, knowledge of their ethic or their name in the field. So you want to make sure that you take advantage of those opportunities to ask, to say like, okay, so what's this person like? Do you know this person? Do you know what research they're doing? That's another way through which I was able to determine to say like, oh, okay, um, maybe I'm not gonna go to this school because maybe this person may not, I may not work well with this person, or I may work well with this person. So yeah, definitely reach out to students, in their labs, reach out to students currently going to those schools. They will give you a more accurate perspective of, what the dynamics are, be it in the lab and how they work. So it will let you know to say like, okay, is this a lab I would consider? At the end of the day, is this a school I would consider? Would I have options in terms of what my lab of choice would be? So the other things I considered were the stipends that are offered, thinking about the cost of living as well of some of these schools. So I applied to both in state, so in Michigan, as well as outside of Michigan, but still within the US. And different states, have different taxes, different, the cost of living is different depending on where you are. And so for me, I was considering that, even as I think about the stipend amount that is given to students, will I be able to survive, wherever it is that I go? Benefits as well that come with that. So a lot of these schools, I believe all of them that I was thinking about or looking at or applied to, the stipend also came with additional health benefits. I think all my programs, all those schools that I applied to, also had a requirement for me to do like some kind of like assistantship at some point, or like work as a TA, a teacher's assistant, do some sort of like work to contribute to my, not only my coursework. For some was coursework, for others it was also like as a way of contributing to my pay. And for me personally, I don't mind doing that. I actually welcome the opportunity to do that, because I still want to build on my teaching skills, and my ability to explain the science. So yeah, that wasn't an issue for me. Some schools don't have that requirement. So yeah. I also looked into the curriculum to just have a better understanding of what the programs offer. And I found that different schools, again, they have different requirements, different curriculums. Yeah. So that was another thing. I also looked at the period that it takes for like most students to graduate, just to give me somewhat of an idea of how long it typically takes for students to graduate. Most of the schools that I looked at, they were all, actually all the schools I looked at were all under an average of 6 years, which is nice. So yeah. I also considered like factors that just tend to affect or influence my day to day. There are certain places that already I knew at the beginning of this year I'm not applying here. Like places like California. California is so expensive. I knew that I was not going to apply there. Washington State is also an expensive one. I said it's not happening. New York, in addition to just the cost of living, I was thinking about just my own personality. I knew to say, like, I don't think I would survive in New York. New York is very fast paced, you know? And so I just said, it's not for me. I'm not built for this type of environment, you know? So things like that, I considered to say, like, yeah, I think the environment is important to me, you know, at least. And so if you're someone who resonates with that, consider that, you know, your graduate school learning, you're anticipating you'll be in that space for in that place for 5 to 6 years, 5 to 7 years maybe, you know. So you want to make sure that you are going to be in a place, or at least you're applying to schools in places that you can envision yourself living in. The environment overall, will I be able to succeed? Could I thrive in that environment? And thinking, speaking about environment, I also considered weather. Unfortunately, a number of like really good schools are in places that experience terrible winters. I've been in Michigan for 6 years now, and Michigan is home. It's my second home, you know. But I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind playing outside of Michigan, because the winters in Michigan are just, they are rough. You know, currently we are now in that period, and today specifically, we had somewhat of a storm. I mean, a mini snowstorm, and I was just looking outside. Snow is beautiful. I won't take it, is beautiful. It looks like a dream, you know, but at the same time it's like it's depressing. Like winters can be quite depressing. Seasonal depression is real, you know, and I've been thinking to myself, like, God, I've been asking God about this, like, you know, do I really need to stay in a place like this? Because it's rough. It really is rough. Every year I go through the same thing where I'm like in denial to say, oh, is this really happening for the next few months? Yeah. So I personally considered weather, but a number of programs, a number of schools that offer the program I'm interested in are in places that experience winter, but maybe not to the same extent as Michigan. I think only, yeah. Only, well, four of the schools that I applied to. I'm breaking down. But yeah, anyway, weather was still another thing that I had considered as I was thinking about the schools that I was applying to. So some places were like no-go areas. And I should mention that, you know, even if Michigan, places like Michigan experience really bad winters, I am so thankful that Michigan doesn't experience some of these natural disasters that are pretty frequent, you know, in certain states, you know. So I don't mean to come off like I am complaining about Michigan. And Lord, if that's, yeah, okay, I was complaining. Please forgive me for complaining. But you know, even though I can admit to say winters can be very depressing and it's painful, I'm still thankful. I shouldn't, I can't disregard the fact that it is a blessing to be able to stay in a place where natural disasters are not something that happen frequently, you know. So all those different factors helped me narrow down the list of schools that I was going to be applying to. And so I applied to seven schools, seven programs in total. When I first started with this, I did mention this earlier, I forgot to. I was thinking I would be applying to at least 12 schools, but I came to realize, and even in my interactions with my mentor, as well as my recommenders, that, you know, once you figure out the program that you really want to pursue, um, as well as a few other factors, but more so the program that you want to pursue, once you figure out what you want to do, it will really help you narrow down your list a lot, you know. So there definitely is truth to what they said, because it helped me really narrow down my list and say, okay, I'm only applying to these schools. Does it increase your chances? Probably. If you apply to plenty schools, yeah. It's why I didn't want to just apply to say one or two schools. I wanted to give myself options. But also bear in mind that applying to graduate schools is can be an expensive process. So I was very fortunate. I thank God that for me, applying to 7 schools, I think only three of those schools actually were free, and one of the schools, my application fee was waived. So I only paid for 3 of those schools, and for the four others, 4 of my applications were free. So that saves you a lot. Like on average, I would say the cost of each application was around $95. And so you're thinking about it, if say you're applying to 7 schools or more than that, you're looking at about 600 to $1,000, if not more, depending on the number of schools that you're applying to. So it's it's an expensive process. I thank God for the schools that have free applications. May God bless you. May God bless you, because and it's non-refundable is the thing. So you want to, even as you're looking at the list of schools, you want to make sure that you're really applying to the schools that you're interested in, because it's an expensive process as well. So yeah, those are pretty much all the things that I considered as I was applying to graduate school. um and the other thing is, like, even with your recommenders, as I had mentioned, make sure that you send reminders to your recommenders during the time when you would be doing your applications. Let them know, what deadline you're looking into. Share with them. So what I did for like my recommenders, I shared with them the list of schools, the final list of schools I was applying to, the deadlines for those schools, as well as the programs I was applying to. I generated like my personal statement and my statement of purpose. Some schools, like I mentioned earlier, require different things. Some of them will require like a personal statement. So typically, again, even like a personal statement may vary from school to school. The requirements will vary. What may be a personal statement in one school is a statement of purpose in another school. From my experience with the schools I was applying to, the personal statement requested you writing your experiences research outside of your research experience, that gives them an idea of who you are as a person, but also will allow you the opportunity to highlight certain skills that you developed, that also can translate not only to your research and your ability to succeed in research, but also can help you contribute to the community of that school. So yeah, they want to know things like that, whereas your statement of purpose is pretty much centered around your research experience. So you have things like that. I generated my personal statement, my statement of purpose, sent those as drafts to my recommenders. I think they not only allow your recommenders to, rather, it not only gives you the opportunity to get feedback on things that you could work on, like edits that you need to make. This is why I say also, again, give ample time, because you want to make sure that you do these things in a timely manner, such that you're able to, share your documents with the people whose feedback you would want, like your recommenders, as well as maybe like a research scientist or a postdoc. Share the documents with the people you'd want to like review, so that you can get their feedback and still have time to make necessary edits, send back again for further review, things of that nature, so that even as you're submitting your application, you are confident in the things that you have submitted. Not necessarily that, oh, you 100% get in, because you can't determine that, but you're at least confident that you've done your best. So that was very important for me. The major things that made the process hectic were those documents, the essays. The essays. one of the things that I really struggle with, just like talking about in detail, is my accomplishments. Talking about, even just saying that, it makes me cringe inside, like, oh, my accomplishments. Because for one, I just didn't grow up like that. I wasn't raised to talk more about, oh, like, you, this is what you've achieved, this is what. I wasn't raised like that, not only from just like my nuclear family, the way my parents raised me, but also the culture. I don't think, the Zambian culture is such that you just be talking about your accomplishment, this, that, that. That's not to say that there are not people who are like that, like they just, but I think the culture in itself is not such that, you know it makes it easy for you to just be saying things like this off the bat. So I struggled, with even starting to work on the documents, because I knew to say, I'm going to have to start talking about my accomplishments, see, and what. But we did it. You have to do it. I remember, like, my first draft of my statement of purpose, I gave it to, I asked my mentor for his feedback on it, and he was like, no, you need to emphasize this, that you did, like, you did this, and you did this. You need to emphasize this, the work that you've done. And I was telling him, I'm just like, but I don't want to come off as cocky, for this. Like, I wouldn't want to. But he's like, I get it, I get you, but you have to put aside your humility, in a sense, and talk about your achievements. Because then again, you're slighting yourself by not talking about those things. So if you, like me, don't like talking, I'm sorry, but you're going to have to talk about your achievements. It's one of those, like, humps, that I had to get over, as I was working towards this. But past that, I think the what made it such a hectic process, I get, is like just writing for each school, tailoring your documents for each school, making sure that you are still putting in all the information that you would want to do, but in a tactful way, and in a way, like, you're telling your story, um but you're also still, again, giving the best quality work you can at the time. So that was what was the most hectic process of it all. But I think, for me, what helped was establishing a template. So based on my statement of purpose and my personal statement, I use that as my templates for other things. Some schools also, again, ask for additional things. Like, some schools will ask you, like, for a life statement, others will ask you, like, for a community statement, talking about how you would engage with the community. So that's a separate document from your statement of purpose and your personal statement. So it's just things like that that make the process hectic. So the earlier you could start working on, like, developing those drafts, generating those drafts, the better. You will thank yourself for doing that. Keep track of the deadlines. Make sure that you are not waiting for the deadline. Because another thing that left me a little bit like, why do they do this? Why do they do this? So some schools will let you know of the exact time, of the deadline. So some schools will, like, say the deadlines for the schools I applied to were running between 1st December to 3rd December. So one of the schools, I remember, like, had a 1st December deadline at 5 p.m. 5 p.m. I think it was 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Other schools had, like, stated the deadlines but no time. So it was sort of like, okay, so is this deadline for midnight or 11:59 p.m.? Like, what time is this deadline? I don't know. So you just don't want to gamble with that. So don't wait for the deadline. The sooner you can get your applications done, the better. You don't have to worry, about anything. You're stress free. I would say that pretty much has been my experience applying to grad school so far. I am really excited, a bit nervous for what's going to come after this. So at this point, I'm pretty much just waiting to hear back from schools regarding interview offers. So I'll be sharing all that with you. I had said, I think in a past video, that, I want to share this journey with you. And so I intend to live up to that and share what this experience going forward will be, whether or not I get in at this point. And like I mentioned earlier, I started this process leaving everything in God's hands. At the end of the day, God created me. He knows what my purpose in this life will be, how long I will live, what things I will achieve, and the direction that he has for my life and the things he's placed on my heart. So, who else will I turn to for whatever decision, big or small, that needs to be made? So, either way, my prayer at this point is that whatever happens, I am content. Whatever happens, I still have faith in God's process and God's plan for my life. I really hope that, you are able to benefit one way or another from anything that I could have said, and that, it'll help you with your journey. I genuinely wish you the best with this, as you are either thinking about applying to grad school or already applying at this point. And I pray that God is with you. Please do not allow nerves to get in the way. Don't let the fear of the unknown get to you. Be confident in the plan that God has for your life. And more so reflect. I'm choosing to reflect on the things that God has already done for me and how he sustains me currently. I strongly implore you to do the same. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already subscribed to my channel, hit that subscribe button and share. You never know who may really benefit from what I had to talk about. This is it for me as of this moment. I'm looking forward to sharing my next video with you guys. Please take care, guys. Bye.